thing.
Hey, it
What
works.
is we are live. Sorry, I had a little technical trouble. We figured it out. Colin was gracious enough to wait, so we are off with another fire episode of the Devy Dose. As I said, we have a very special guest on tonight, the one, the only Colin at C2C Decker. What is up, my friend?
Nothing much, man. This is I'm excited to come back. This is my first show back since wedding honeymoon, So I'm glad to be on here, man.
Yeah, you graciously left the beaches of Costa Rica just to come do the show. Is
Yeah.
is what I'm telling everyone.
Yep. Just it flew back just for this show. Got in at 5 this afternoon, raced home, but we're
it's
good.
it's important stuff, But
It
just
is.
for, a warm congratulations from the Debbie
Thank you.
Dose on your
Thank you.
officially tied down status. That's phenomenal, and I hope it doesn't impact your work at CTC because we rely on you.
Nah, it shouldn't. It shouldn't. We'll be all right. No kids yet. So that'll be I think that'll be the one where it's like it'll impact the time. But
I'll figure that out later, right?
yeah, exactly. That's down the road.
Okay, so we are picking the thread back up with freshman content. We did an awesome show a couple of weeks ago with Austin. We really dug into the meat of this freshman wide receiver class. Tonight, we are pivoting to the quarterbacks. Colin has a treasure trove of information. He's got these guys graded. He scouted them. He sorted them for us. He's going to give us the cliff notes for those of us that are not as well endowed in terms of film watching and freshman scouting as he is. So I think we're going to start, and we've foreshadowed this a little bit with Malachi Nelson, QB, attending USC. This will be the new Lincoln Riley protege. Tell me, Colin, why is Nelson the QB1?
I mean, he's the highest quarterback that I've graded in the past couple cycles. So I started doing official recruiting grades 3 years ago, and he's the highest quarterback I've had graded in the last 3 classes. I mean, this dude is he's an advanced passer compared to where most high schoolers are at this point. He throws with anticipation. It's exceptionally well. I mean, it's just, you don't see this type of anticipation typically from high school quarterbacks. Very good accuracy, very good ball placement. He knows exactly where to put the ball to have his receiver be the one to make a play. Whether he's throwing it up for a jump ball to have his guy on that back shoulder, whether he's setting his guy up for yak, he's hitting him right in stride. I mean, this dude has some good arm talent, throws a great touch. He does overthrow deep passes a little bit, so I want to see him rein that in a little. But I mean, overall, this dude's got the goods, and I'm really excited to see him with Lincoln Riley and see how they can work together. I mean, especially with 2024 quarterback Dylan Raiola now committing to Georgia, we don't have to worry about who's going to be the next guy up. It's Malachi Nelson.
Yeah, that is awesome. So, in a debate on the Twitterverse today about this, were you not nonplussed by Nelson's performance in the spring game? Not an issue for you?
No, not really an issue for me. I mean, he had off-season shoulder surgery on his non-throwing shoulder, so that's a good thing. It was in, I think, the end of December, so he kind of missed some of those later all-star games and that kind of stuff. He was just kind of getting back into throwing again as the spring came in. So, I mean, yeah, he didn't look great in the spring game, but he was still working his way back from that injury. And it was his first time, with college players there. I think a lot of the freshmen in these spring games didn't look that great, honestly. I mean, Lenora Sellers looked good. Aiden Childs reportedly looked good, but the top guys didn't look as good as we thought they were going to. Jackson Arnold, Arch Manning, all those guys kind of struggled a little bit. So I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah, I mean, they are, high school, right?
Yeah, he should still be in high
still.
school, man. He should still be going to his prom. He should be graduating, hanging out with his friends, one last hurrah kind of a deal. And now he's at USC training.
Yeah, no, my boy's got the sight on his future, and the future looks good. Sorry, it took me a while to get the film going. For some reason, Huddle is just fighting me tooth and nail, but I have tricked it finally into actually playing some Malachi Nelson highlights here. And yeah, man, this kid can ball. For me, I like Dante Moore a lot too. Mm-hmm. I see the upside with Jackson Arnold, Arch Manning, Iamaleava, but the combination of this kid being, if not indisputably the top talent, because other people haven't graded less than that, just the fact that he gets to play with Lincoln Riley. I mean, Lincoln Riley is an NFL 101 factory. Just the Heisman Trophy machine. You pull the handle, Heisman's pop out.
Yeah.
And, I think I'll take the 40% chance at having, the NFL 101 in 4 years that it is. And honestly, probably better than that.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything that I see from him is NFL caliber. Arm strength. He doesn't have the strongest arm in the class, but it's good. His mobility, like as it's popping up here in the screen, he can extend plays really well. He's not going to take off and run for huge chunks of yards. And honestly, you don't really want him to. If you watch him here, if you look at him, look how skinny he is. He's almost scary skinny, which is probably my biggest knock on him, honestly. It's not anything that's going to really hold me back grade-wise or anything. I mean, we just saw Bryce Young at air quotes 5'11" or whatever he ended up measuring in at, go 101. So, like, we've seen small, slender quarterbacks. So I'm not really that worried about it, but he's very skinny.
Yeah, he moves well in the pocket, though, and I love the escapability. Obviously, for fantasy football, we like the rushing quarterbacks, but there's something to be said for the guy that's going to scramble and keep his eyes down the field and find the guy and rip off chunk gains. I mean, how much rushing yardage does Mahomes at these days?
Exactly.
20 or 30 yards a game, but damn, you don't care about it when he's throwing for 400 yards and 4 tutties.
Yeah, exactly. And that's going to be Nelson.
Any parting shots for Nelson before we move on?
Not really. I mean, I think anybody who is expecting, anything from him this year, it's not going to happen. Caleb Williams, former Heisman winner, sitting in front of him. Even if something were to happen to Caleb Williams, knock on wood, it doesn't. I think it would be Miller Moss, because you don't want to roll a true freshman out there. They have Miller Moss, who's a fairly high recruit up there, when he was coming out. I think it was 2 years ago. I don't really think he's anything special, but he's just a good backup. So they would go with him over Nelson. But 2024, after Caleb Williams goes, like, this is going to be Nelson's team. He's going to be having some great weapons around him. Zachariah Branch, Mekhi Lemon. They're going to bring in other guys for sure. So, I mean, this guy, if you're playing C2C, he's my 101 because of the production you're going to get from him. And Devy, he would be my 101 too, because I think he's just about as locked as you can get for the NFL.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm stoked to have acquired a couple of shares thus so far in drafts, and I look forward to building on those. And they have been transfer portal machines lately too. This year taking Singer and who'd they get at running back? They got the kid from South Carolina.
Yeah, Marshawn Lloyd. Yeah.
I like Lloyd. I think
we talked about that on Twitter. You and me, Spider-Man meme.
Oh, yeah. I'm a fan when he's been healthy. He's played really well. He's got the size. He's got soft hands. I mean, I think he's kind of Cam Akers-ish if, I was going to play that game. But, okay. So I think your guys' consensus to my QB2 as well should introduce Mr. Moore to us.
Yeah, same. He's my QB2 as well. So he's my second highest graded quarterback. So the way that we kind of structure our grading over at Campus to Canton. Now, I'm not part of the recruiting team, so my grades don't go up on the site, but I still grade using the same template just so we can kind of keep things uniform. He would be my only other 5-star. He and Malachi are comfortably 5 stars. I am a little bit harsher grading on quarterbacks, to be honest. So, and Arch Manning just missed 5-star. And Nico and Jackson Arnold were right there too. But it was Malachi, and then it was Dante Moore. And Moore and Arch were kind of neck and neck for me. But what really set it off was just how good Dante Moore looked in the All-Star game. I'm pretty sure it was the All-American Bowl was the one that he was in. He was so good in that game, playing against the best of the best. And he just was phenomenal. His processing was great. And that was something you kind of saw everywhere too, but he showed some escapability in that game too. I mean, he just looked so clean. And I think he's got a good shot at getting on the field early here. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I just as a side note, I really value those reps in the All-Star games because you don't know the level of competition all the time. Even if they're playing a good team, like, there's a couple of kids on that good team that aren't going to play college ball, right? So you would think that, a savvy OC on the high school side is going to pick that stuff apart. But last year, Klubnik, I thought, dominated in the All-American Bowl.
Yeah, and that rose him for me too.
Yeah. So, I didn't get as much time on the bowl games this year, which I regret, but sorry to interrupt you, my friend.
No, you're good, man. I mean, it's so Dante Moore is also a very smart quarterback in this class. I mean, like I said, Nelson is very advanced with his processing, his anticipating, and Moore is right there too. Moore is a really quick decision maker. He's in the like Joe Burrow, Tua mold where he doesn't have like the flashy tools. He doesn't have this cannon arm. He's not going to rush for 1,000 yards or anything like that. That's just not his game. But he is just there mentally. He's so comfortable in the pocket. He's comfortable when it breaks down. He's comfortable inside of structure, outside of structure. He's very mechanically sound. And he just is a guy who distributes the ball. He knows how to put it on a guy to set him up for success. Like it's kind of like I said with Nelson, he leads his receivers, knows where to put it on jump balls where only they can get it. He does not make very many bad decisions. People might label him like a game manager, but I think he's more like a game manager plus. Where he's a guy who you put him back there and you feel good right away. I mean, this guy started for 4 straight years in high school, and he's got a shot to do that in college too. Maybe not right out of the gate, but early playing time.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite traits that I've seen, from him on film is just he is so cool and collected when things break down. He's not tucking the ball and running either. He's sidestepping, fading back, and then finding open guys and still putting the ball where it should be with touch. I mean, that's like you mentioned Joe Burrow, and that was the thing that sold me on Burrow the most was just his pocket presence and his awareness and his ability under pressure. I think that translates to the NFL level very, very well. So I love seeing that in an 18-year-old kid.
He's a gamer, man. I mean, he's one of those guys who when the lights come on, like that's when he plays his best. Like you said, he's always looking downfield. He's always looking to make a play with his arm.
Any concerns about UCLA as a landing spot? I mean, it's not like a quarterback factory per se.
Yeah, it's really not. I mean, Chip Kelly has produced some NFL quarterbacks. He had Marcus Mariota. He had, I think he was there for Dennis Dixon. Dennis Dixon didn't really do anything in the pros, but he was there. So like he can develop quarterbacks a little bit. But out of all of the landing spots of the top quarterbacks in this class, out of Nico and Jackson Arnold and Arch and Malachi and Dante's landing spot is the one that does worry me the most. Now, I think his skills are going to be good enough that he'll, kind of transcend that. And like I said, Chip Kelly does have experience in the NFL, putting players into the NFL. So I'm not overly concerned. But like I said, if you just stack up where all those quarterbacks went, he would be the one that I would be the least thrilled about.
Yeah, some concerns there. I liked that at least they got Sturdivant. I think they have an experienced, NFL talent, wide receiver coming in to help him. They got a strong running game. So, I think there's some salvageable or, salvaging traits in that offense and that system. So I'm not freaking out on. Plus, he probably gets on the field this year. At least he's got a good shot, right?
Yeah, he does. Like I said, out of all of them, I think he has the best shot. I mean, right now it's looking like Ethan Garbers is going to be the guy who leads the room, and he's just literally the definition of a guy.
A guy.
Right. So Dante Moore, if he can, show what he showed in the bowl game, could show what he showed here on tape, I think there's a good chance by the end of the year, he's getting some playing time, getting some starts maybe.
Yeah, love it. Anything on him before we move on?
I think the thing with Dante Moore is I like him more for Devy than I do for C2C, just a little bit. If you're looking at college production, I think, he'll have, like we talked about, he might have the early production, but I don't think his CFF ceiling is quite as high, in that Chip Kelly offense. I mean, we saw, DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, have some fantastic years, but he was a rusher.
He's running.
Yeah, that's not quite what Moore does. So I don't know how prolific his numbers will be, but from a pro perspective, I mean, I think this guy is going to be a pro. I think he's going to be a first-round quarterback.
You'd have to think too, having a guy with this talent level is going to help them recruit better at the wide receiver position.
Yeah.
Maybe you get some trickle-down bonuses there. So we are on to the biggest name in this class, at least.
Yeah.
What you got on Manning?
So Arch Manning is, he's got the name, like you said. He is the son of Cooper Manning, so it's not like he's Eli or Peyton's son, but he's still got that bloodline.
He's got that Archie blood.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably the most highly sought after recruit that I've ever heard of. I mean, his recruiting cycle was ridiculous. He's had high level coaching his entire life, and you can see that on the field with him. I mean, he is just cerebrally, pre-snap, he's making reads. I mean, he's making people jump off sides. He's pointing out blitzes. He knows everything that's going to happen pre-snap. Post-snap, he's still a pretty good decision maker overall. He scrambles fairly well, navigates the pocket, extends some plays pretty well. He can make some throws off platform too. He doesn't really lose much velocity or accuracy on them. Arm talent isn't elite, but it's good. I think he is just a good. A lot of people out there, some people out there have been saying if he didn't have the name, he'd be like a 3-star prospect going to Coastal Carolina or something. And I don't think that's the case. I mean, there's a lot to like about his game as it is. The name just really helps.
Yeah. I think there's a noticeable downtick in ball placement when you go from Nelson and Moore to Manning.
Exactly.
For sure.
Yeah. He needs to improve the ball placement. His general accuracy is very good. But his ball placement does need to improve. And he's so clean mechanically too, that you almost wonder how much better is it going to get? Because typically when you're oh, this guy needs to clean up his ball placement, you're okay, he needs to, clean up his footwork. He needs to, tie his upper half to his lower half a little bit better. And that'll hopefully improve it. He's really polished as a player. And working with Sark is going to be good. Steve Sarkisian has put quarterbacks into the NFL repeatedly. He has NFL experience too. So it's a good coaching system that he's going to, but I think his ceiling isn't quite the same as some of the other top guys, but he has the highest floor, I think, out of all of them. Given his name, he's going to get so many chances.
Yeah, I feel like their offensive line was a little bit garbage too. I mean, he's got guys in his face all the time on this tape. And the poorer passes I've seen too have been him with a guy draped on him, sidearming it out. So maybe that's just not. Maybe he's just not with that, the crazy off platform stuff. Maybe he's going to be better when he gets protected a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with the high school he went to, Isidore Newman, is it's a small school in Louisiana, and I don't remember exactly what the level of competition grade is. That's something our recruiting team looks at as they look at the level of competition. I think there's like a score on max preps. His was really low, so like his team wasn't great. His competition wasn't great. So he is going to have a little bit of a step up. And he also didn't really do any of the camp circuits either, like the Elite 11 and the Rivals camps, all that kind of stuff, because he didn't have to,
Right.
Everybody already wanted him.
Yeah. Like, why go to the combine if you're already the 101, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Anything else on Manning?
Yeah, I think the thing with Manning right now too is I've seen a lot of people talking about, Malik Murphy and how good of a spring he had and everything. And he did. Malik Murphy really improved from where he was as a freshman coming in to now. He looked good in the spring. But I think if anybody's out there saying that this is an Arches team in 2024, like, I don't know what to tell you, man. I mean, he's a Manning, and that means something, like Steve Sarkisian can't bring in Arch Manning and sit him behind Malik Murphy, like for 2 or 3 years, he can't do that. Like, he'll never get a top recruit again.
Yeah. Right. And it's, at the end of the day too, it's a business. Who's going to sell more tickets?
Exactly.
Who's going to sell more merch? Yeah.
So Arch Manning would have to be a total flop for him to go with Malik Murphy. And I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, right. Well, interesting to see where Malik lands next year. Then,
I think he's going to have to transfer out. Yeah, he is a talented kid. He looked good.
Yeah, so on to our next guy, and that would be Mr. Nico Iamaleava. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's how I've been saying it, Iamaleava. So this is where there's a little bit of a step down for me. So Arch Manning, like I said, he would have, based on our grades, he would have just missed 5-star status for me. And then there's a little bit of a tick down between Nico and Jackson Arnold. So those two, they had the same overall grade for me, just based on the different categories and everything. But I put Nico ahead of Arnold because Nico's tools are like, he's got some of the best tools in the class. I mean, this dude has a cannon for an arm. He has the strongest arm out of the top guys in the class. I mean, some guys are a little lower, like JJ Cole has going to Iowa State has a monster arm too. I mean, maybe you could put his on par with Nico, but I think overall Nico probably has the strongest arm in the class. High end arm talent. He can make any throw you ask of him. He did improve his touch between junior and senior year from what I was seeing, where he doesn't only throw fastballs now. He's gotten better in that regard. He throws well on the move. I mean, when he can extend plays pretty well when he gets flushed out of the pocket. He's an athletic guy. He's a high end volleyball player as well. That's actually why he didn't go to the Elite 11.
You don't hear that.
Yeah, out of quarterbacks. Yeah. But yeah, so he's a dude in terms of arm talent. I think the biggest thing is he doesn't really move through progressions. He's not really asked to move off of his first read very often in this offense. And I don't think he's really going to be asked to do that too much at Tennessee. That offense is going to be really good for him. It's going to put him in position to make plays and make easy decisions, but it's not going to get him ready for the NFL. And he does have some warts. He's solid mechanics, but he struggles with accuracy. In the last 2 years, he hasn't completed over 60% of his passes. So, he has some things he needs to tweak there. And like I said, he doesn't move through progressions that much. So I think he has a high ceiling, and he's going to put up some monster numbers at Tennessee because he's going to be the guy. They paid him like $8 million or whatever it was rumored to be. So he's going to be next. But the question is, what's his NFL's potential? And he's going to have to make some strides for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Hooker made some strides, took him 5 years to do it, but
yeah.
No, I thought he had some nice touch on some of these screens and, kind of passes out into the flats. This is his senior tape, I think.
Yeah.
Pretty sure. And
yeah.
Can we talk about the fact that he's like 7 feet tall?
He's a tall dude. What's he? 6'5", 195. So, we affectionately call him Slender Man out there.
Yeah.
You want to talk about Malachi being scary skinny. Nico's right there too.
Yeah, dude's a foot taller than me, and I outweigh him.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, and I don't think he has the frame really to put on more weight either. Not the quarterback position; it's not as big of a deal, like I said, but still very skinny.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to watch him throw passes to a screamingly wide open squirrel right for the next 3 years.
Yeah,
They come out of a stacked formation and have
yeah,
DBs fight hard,
yeah. They get the wide splits, open up the middle of the field, open up deep downfield. I mean, they're going to be able to take advantage of his arm strength, and like I said, he's going to put up some big numbers. And it wouldn't surprise me to see him challenge for a Heisman, but like I said, he's got some things he just needs to clean up, and we'll see if he can do it at Tennessee.
Yeah, well, excited. I think he is, for CFF, I could see him being the most interesting guy after Nelson.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I agree. And I think, honestly, even for CFF, I could see Nico being a better CFF option overall. Like it's like a 1A, 1B kind of a thing. But I mean, when he gets on the field, like he's going to smash for CFF. So if that's what you care about the most is in your C2C league, or you're in just strictly CFF, then yeah, like he'll be great for that. But like I said, just have some questions on the Devy potential.
Do you think he plays much this year?
So I've been on record saying Joe Milton is 2 bad games away from getting yanked.
Yeah.
Because we've seen him play some bad games. That Ole Miss game, I think it was 2 years ago, was a bad one where he just like ran out of bounds as the clock's expiring. So Joe Milton has had some stinkers in there, and he's definitely capable of that. So if he does, I think it depends when in the year those stinkers would come. If they come early, I think they go with the backup whose name is escaping me right now. He was like some lower ranked recruited guy. But if it comes later in the year and Nico has some time to develop, I could see him getting some starts. So he has a little bit more of a clear path than, like a Malachi or an Arch. Like we talked about with Malik Murphy. Like I think if something happens to Quinn Ewers, Malik Murphy's the next guy up. It's not Arch.
Right.
So whereas Nico, there's a possibility he could be the next guy up.
Yeah, I mean, if Milton struggles, the boosters are going to be clamoring for their dollar's worth,
Yeah. Yeah, you don't pay $8 million for a guy to ride the pine for long.
No. And if he does, then, there's going to be questions, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you're number 5?
Yeah.
Now?
Yeah, number 5. And, this Jackson Arnold, like I said, he and Nico are a little bit below the top 3 guys in this class. But in most classes, Jackson and Arnold and Nico are, QBs 2 and 3 in the class, or, QB 2 in most classes. Like these guys are talented players. I mean, this year's a historically great quarterback class. There are 5 quarterbacks inside the top, I think it's 15. It's definitely inside the top 20 overall, but 5 inside like the top 15 to 20 overall prospects in the class. Like that's never happened before. Never had that many. So it's a historically great quarterback class. The thing with Arnold is he's very comfortable. He's very poised. He's pretty accurate. He's the type of guy that like is going to do well in college, especially in the Jeff Lebby system at Oklahoma. Like he's going to do well. My biggest question with him is he doesn't really have the elite tools. His arm strength is good. It's not great. He's mobile. He's definitely mobile. He can move around. He has some rushing production at the high school level. I don't necessarily think it's going to translate to the college level. He can pick up some chunks of yards, but I don't think he's going to be a guy you're designing runs for and you have him running off on plays. So good, not great tools. And he's a little small. He's listed 6'1". It's not tiny, but I typically do like to see quarterbacks over the 6'2" mark, like 6'3" and over is where I prefer them to be. So he doesn't get any pluses for his size. He doesn't lose points necessarily either, but he's a type of guy that I think is going to be a really good college quarterback. And I think he has the pro potential to be good. Again, kind of in that, Tua mold, something along that, where he just distributes the ball and he's just very consistent and good. But, I don't think he's going to be an elite quarterback at the next level.
Yeah, I keep feeling Taylor Heineke when I watch this.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
no, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, the dude is good for sure, but he's not going to be elite. And there's nothing wrong with that. We can't all have these elite high end guys. We can't all be Mahomes and Josh Allen. But like I said, I think he'll be somebody who will play on Sundays. But he's still a little bit lower of a ceiling than the other guys.
Yeah, he's got some Kenny Pickett-ish rushing upside here. Looks like.
Yeah.
So, word was he had an excellent spring, and
do
you think he starts this year?
So I think it's going to be Dylan Gabriel, but we saw last year what happened when Dylan Gabriel went down. Like, they just paraded out bad quarterback after bad quarterback until they got to the point where they're using Jaleel Farouk as a wildcat quarterback in that Red River rivalry game, which I felt bad for him in that game, like for Jaleel Farouk. I mean, and Oklahoma in general, they did not have the quarterback play to stay in that game. And so I think if something were to happen to Gabriel, I think I could see him being in the same boat as Nico, where if something happens early in the season, I think they probably go with one of the more experienced guys. General Booty is there. Davis Bevel or something along those lines. Like, they go with one of those two guys. But if something happens later on in the year, as we start to get into like week 8, 9 or so, I could see him being the next guy in.
Yeah. So I had, when he transferred to Oklahoma, I had fairly high expectations for Gabriel because he was so just prolific.
Same.
At UCF. I was just like, man, he with less talent around him, he was throwing for 4,500 yards. And then I didn't study Gabriel tape that much, but I watched a heck of a lot of Marvin Mims film last year, and Gabriel is not a great quarterback. There's a lot of ball placement issues, just Mims and other receiver just running wide open, getting missed by a mile, or just him just not seeing them. Gabriel's a good college quarterback.
Yeah.
He's not a great college quarterback. He's not an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. I had high hopes for Gabriel too, especially going to Oklahoma. I was like, man, like the numbers he put up at UCF, if he can do something similar to that at Oklahoma, like I think that'll mean something to the NFL. Even though Oklahoma didn't have Lincoln Riley anymore, they still had Jeff Lebby, who's like a good offensive mind. Like, he's a good coordinator. He's going to put numbers up for that offense. So I did have some hope for Gabriel, but yeah, I agree with you. I don't think he's really it. He's good enough, though, that he'll hold on to that starting job all year, I think. I don't think Arnold will push him without an injury.
Fair to say. Anything left on Arnold to say?
No, not really. Nothing left on Arnold. I know there's definitely some people out there who are really high on him. And like I said, I think he's going to be a great college quarterback. I think he just has the ceiling to be a good pro, and there's nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah. No, fair to say. A lot of things to like. He does have some mobility.
Yeah.
The NFL is looking for that. So,
yeah, like I said, he's a very mobile quarterback. I don't know how well that's going to translate necessarily to the college level. Like, I don't think he's going to be breaking off huge chunks like we saw on tape here. He'll get some for sure. But we'll see how that ends up translating.
Oklahoma's got a good rushing offense too. I mean, it's
good
running backs. They always have an excellent line. They have a good scheme.
Yeah.
So could be some opportunities there. Gabriel,
sure.
I feel like hasn't run at all this year, right? Last year.
Not really. Yeah, he didn't really run too much last year. So, I mean, I don't know if that was something related to the injury or if, Jeff Lebby didn't want him to run or what that was. But, yeah, he wasn't as mobile as he was at UCF.
Yeah, UCF, you pick up some little chunks here and there. Okay, so now we have left the bubble.
Yes.
What Eric knows about for these guys. I watched film on these guys. I knew a little bit about this. We get into Leave It and the rest. And what I know about Sam Leave It is that people are taking him in my supplemental drafts. That's it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, I like Sam Leavitt. He and Novosad actually have the same grade for me. I kind of jump back and forth with them. Right now, I have Novosad ahead of Leavitt just because I value him going to Oregon a little bit higher.
I miss Novosad. I'll pull him up.
But if you ask me, in 2 weeks, like I could have Leavitt flipped ahead of him. They're same grade. I think one of the things with Sam Leavitt that I love a lot is his arm talent. I mean, you see it on here. Like, look at it, just drops it in a bucket over the shoulder. He's got very good arm strength. He can throw to all levels of the field. He throws off platform, doesn't lose any velocity off of it. He shows good touch. So, you saw him drop it in deep in the bucket on those deep balls. You see him drop it over linebackers too in the middle of the field as well. So he's got really good arm talent. He's also an aggressive passer. He's going to trust his arm strength and he's going to fire it into some tight windows. That. Yeah, exactly. Right there. Throws it into some tighter windows that other QBs won't. And I like that in a quarterback. It's easier to teach a quarterback to rein it in than it is to be a little bit more aggressive. And I think his accuracy improved from junior year to senior year too, which was big. I mean, he had one of the best jumps from junior to senior year out of any player in the class, but also out of any quarterbacks. I mean, he improved his overall composite rating by 0.05, which doesn't sound like a lot until you kind of move that decimal over to percentages. And he moved it up about a full, like half a percentage. So, he had a big jump. He jumped up to 4-star status. He had some interest across the country, ends up at Michigan State. And I think, with Peyton Thorne transferring out, it's him and Noah Kim and Caden Hauser. He's the most talented guy in that room. I don't think he starts day one, but I don't really think that highly of Kim or Hauser. So I could see Leavitt making some starts this year too.
Hauser was a fairly high 4-star recruit as well, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. And, I wasn't low on him coming in. I wasn't as high as some other people were. Matt Bruning over at Campus Scant was a big Caden Hauser guy. But he just has not really shown – he hasn't really improved at all. He did not really look that great this spring. There have not been glowing reports on him. So I think – and I think Leavitt is just a better overall player. He's got the tools. He shows good escapability in the pocket. He's got some mobility. He has – pretty good long speed too. He takes it to the house on some of these. Whether he can do that in college, probably not, but he's another guy that I think can break off some chunks. You have to worry about him a little bit. So he's got the tools. I think if he can put it all together at Michigan State, I mean, we could see him be a early pick. Maybe he's not a first round guy, but he's like a high second round guy. I could see that out of Leavitt.
Michigan State tends to have pretty decent wide receivers too. They just have struggled to get the ball to them. So could do some interesting stuff. And I think you're probably right on Hauser. If you're not winning out the job your sophomore season over the like journeyman backup type guy and Kim, then it probably doesn't bode well for your overall talent level, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, I think that Leavitt will need to develop some areas. You don't always see him move through progressions. He needs to rein it in a little bit sometimes. He is a little aggressive, but I think that can work into his favor. So you just got to teach him how to rein that in. But I think he could be really good.
Yeah, definitely. I like what he's doing when he's under pressure too. He's getting the ball out. He's running, but he's keeping his eyes downfield.
Yeah.
But I can move a little bit too for a bigger dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, there's some plays where he takes it to the house. He's 6'2", 200 pounds is what he was listed as. So he's got pretty good size.
Dropped the boom a couple of times here.
Yeah. Yeah. He lowers the shoulder.
All right, so I skipped Novosad. Novosad is next, huh? I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
I am a failure of a host, Colin. Shame me.
They have the same grade. You're good, man. Like I said, you can ask me in 2 weeks.
I was just prescient. Okay, so let's talk about Novosad.
Yeah, Novosad's is different than Levitt is. You know, Levitt has the big arm. He's got the big tools, where I think Novosad's a little bit more of a pocket passer. You know, he has good arm. He definitely has some good arm strength. You know, you can see him fire one in there over the middle, but he also shows good touch. He makes multi-level throws, you know, all the different levels of the field. Not really any issues on those. He's not mobile. Like, he's not going to be breaking off those huge runs like we saw Sam Levitt do. But he has some, you know, good scramble ability, good escapability. Needs to handle pressure a little bit better at times, but I think Novosad is going to be a good college quarterback. You know, he's going to go sit behind Bo Nix this year, and then seems to be the next guy up for Oregon. They are not really in on any 2024 guys from what I've seen. So unless they bring in a transfer, and I mean, Ty Thompson's not it. You know, I was a big Ty Thompson guy that missed. But so I think Novosad will be the next guy up there. And I think that he is the type of guy who's just going to be very steady and solid in college and could develop into a good, solid NFL type of a quarterback. You know, I think he has that type of a ceiling, like you know, he could be a top 20 NFL quarterback. He's not going to blow you away, but I think he could hold on to a job.
So let me ask you this. Do you like, in supplementals, you personally, targeting these kind of third-tier quarterback prospects? I feel, and this is not statistically driven, but I feel like the Ty Thompsons of the world, the Tyler Buchners, I think a lot of these guys don't hit. I mean, is that just me, or is that a feeling that you guys have talked about as well?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. So I don't tend to target those types of quarterbacks and supplementals. If they fall to me, like if Novosad falls to me, if I'm picking it, like, you know, the 210 to the 303, somewhere in that range, like, yeah, I'll take Novosad. You know, I mean, I'm not gonna rush it. You know, all the other guys on my board have to be gone. I'm not going to just reach on a quarterback because I think he's a guy who could play in the NFL. Because, like you said, those like third tier guys do tend to miss. It's tough to rank and evaluate quarterbacks, man. It's the hardest thing that we do. But he's, you know, they're one of those guys that, like I said, I see some good path to playing time. I could see him having a nice.
We've got a peanut gallery coming. What's up, Austin? Thanks for tuning in.
What QB profiles most similarly to Ty Thompson in this year's class? Man, probably. I was gonna say Jaden Rashada, but I think Rashada's actually got a good shot at playing. So, I mean, it's got to be maybe one of those Bama guys who's going to go there and probably never end up playing.
Yeah, I feel like you guys are all pretty low on both Bama guys, right?
Yeah, Eli Holstein, Dylan Lonergan. I think Eli Holstein is a solid college player, but he is not an Alabama quarterback level type of a guy. Now, I mean, you know, you look at the quarterback room this year for Alabama and you see, you know, Tyler Buchner we talked about before.
They might not have an Alabama quarterback.
Yeah, but I think, you know, they're bringing in one of the top guys in the next class in 2024 in Julian Sayin. You know, I have not evaluated the 2024 class yet. But he's one of the top rated guys. So they're bringing him in. Like, I don't think Holstein or Lonergan are the types of guys who are ever going to play a snap for Alabama. They're the types of guys who are going to have to transfer and they'll go somewhere else. And maybe they could be like a good, solid college quarterback. I could see that out of them, but I don't want to rely on that.
Yeah. So looking into your crystal ball, who starts a quarterback for Alabama this year?
Man, I think... And that's a really tough one. I think as of right now, the betting favorite would probably be Jalen Milroe. I think it's probably like 40% Milroe, 30%, maybe 30% Buckner, 30% Simpson, or you know, maybe 35% Buckner, 25% Simpson, somewhere in that range. It's all really close. But the odds-on favorite right now would be Milroe. We'll just have to see what Tyler Buckner looks like in Tommy Rees's system, which he played in at Notre Dame. He won the starting job at Notre Dame before he got hurt. So we'll have to see how he looks in that system. I could see it being him, but gun to my head right now, Milroe.
Yeah, I think you got to bet on the vet first, right? Especially in a place like Alabama, where if they're all about the same in spring, he's playing the guy they trust the most, likely the most experienced guy there. I'm with you. Gosh, I hope that it's I took so many shares of Simpson last year because he was so damn cheap. I was just getting him at like the end of the second round. And I'm like, it's a 5-star quarterback in Alabama. Yeah. Like, how can you just, maybe he's got a 40% chance of hitting, 30% chance, but he hits, he's probably playing in the NFL. So
yeah, and he had the tools too. He's very mobile. He's got a good arm. He checked a lot of boxes there. There's definitely some things he needed to improve on. And it just looks like he hasn't done that yet.
Yeah. So who did you think played better this spring? You thought Milroe was better?
Man, is the answer none available?
I was gonna say with a lot of damning with faint praise.
Yeah, I think if I remember the stats correctly, Simpson completed less than 50% of his passes, and Milroe was at like 51%. Like they both threw like a pick or two. Like neither of them looked good.
Yeah, that's not great.
No.
Hence Buchner coming in, but again, let's see how he does in an actual offense with a talented surrounding cast that's elevating him rather than Notre Dame, which was I feel like a lead weight on a quarterback. Yeah. But okay, so we got 3 more guys left in your top 10. You want to lead off on Mac?
Yeah, Austin Mack's a player that I'm higher on than most of my counterparts over at C2C. Definitely higher than Austin, my co-host Austin, who graciously chimed in earlier. So I know he's listening.
I was assuming that it was somebody you liked that he was implying profiled to Thompson.
Yeah, if I had to guess who he would say profiled best to Thompson, it would probably be Mac, maybe Keinholtz, actually at Ohio State, somebody like that. But the thing with Austin Mack is he reclassified, so he should have been in the 2024 class, reclassifies into this year, so he's a junior right now, so he is not on campus. But his junior year was really impressive, 70% completion percentage. 3,500 yards, 40 touchdowns. Like this dude balled out this year. And you see a little bit of his pocket mobility here, which I like. He's not the type of guy who's going to take off. He's, and run for a ton of yards. He's probably more in the Malachi Nelson vein of that, where he's just going to kind of move around in the pocket rather than run. I think Nelson's better than that, but I'm just saying in that vein. But I love his arm talent. I mean, he's got a big arm. Especially for being 16 years old. He's got a cannon. He needs to develop some touch, but he can drop it in the bucket over the top. Just needs to work on the touch in the intermediate areas and stuff, and needs to work on moving through progressions and everything. But I think he has a really high ceiling given his tools, how young he is. He's going to that Kalen DeBoer offense at Washington that we love. So I like Mac. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I think he's showing some nice placement on a lot of these passes. There was one deep ball earlier, which was perfectly in stride, which I haven't seen from a lot of the guys between like Dante Moore and now. They're getting the ball to the guy, but the guy's catching it over here. He's coming back a little bit. So that's impressive. It's a highlight tape, right? So
right.
But I think he's doing some really nice stuff. And then I think I'm with you. Showing this level of ability at that young of an age must bode well for actual ceiling as the guy continues to develop.
Yeah, he'll definitely have to develop. He needs to improve within the structure, outside of structure. He looks okay. I think he needs to keep improving in that area. He needs to also work on moving through progressions. It wasn't really something he was asked to do a lot. In the high school here, it's mostly one read. But I think he's a really good fit in Kalen DeBoer's offense that'll mix, some of these shorter, high percentage throws with some deep routes that'll take the top off because we saw him do that. So I think he's a good fit there. And I think he's got the talent. I think he gets drafted. We'll see how high he gets drafted. I think that'll depend a lot on the mental side of the game and the reps, the improvement he can make there. But he's so young. I think he's got a good ceiling.
Yeah, I love it. Now, you think he can be the next guy up after Phoenix graduates?
I mean, I think so. He'll have to. There's not really anybody else on the roster to compete with. I mean, they have Dylan Morris, who was the starter there before Phoenix was there, but I don't know how many years of eligibility Dylan Morris has.
He's got to be running. Yeah, he's got to be running it out.
He's got to be low, and like Washington whiffed on several quarterbacks in this year's class, in the 2023 class. They were in on Sam Leavitt. They were in on Lincoln Kienholz. They whiffed on both of those guys. There was a couple lower guys that they were in on, but out of they got Mac to reclassify. He was decently high. He was a QB 16 in the composite after he reclassified. So decently high recruit. Like, I don't think they're going to recruit over him. So I think he's the next guy up. So you just got to worry about a transfer.
Yeah. So you think they actively went and recruited him and got him to reclassify too, which that bodes well for, him having him being in their plans for the future.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know exactly how it works with the whole reclassifying thing. Like, I mean, I know, like, when I was in high school, like, it wasn't even a possibility for me. So I didn't even know what went into all of that. So I'm sure that it was probably in his mind beforehand. If he got his classes at a place where he could do that, he was probably planning on that a little bit. But I do think Washington probably said, yeah, come on, we'll take you this year. We'll sit you, we'll develop you, and you'll be the next guy up.
Yeah, love it. Okay, so I guess this is one of this year's biggest spring risers so far, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Aiden Childs has been a guy that over at Campus Canton, our recruiting team has definitely been pretty high on throughout pretty much the entire cycle. I think that the reason Aiden Childs was under the radar of sorts, most of the other recruiting services, is because his junior year, he broke his wrist in his throwing hand. So, and if you don't play your junior year, that is one of the biggest. That's probably the biggest year for most teams. Like, that's where you start getting slotted in. That's where you start getting your offers. Like, we're seeing how many quarterbacks right now after their junior season already commit to these schools. Julian Sayans committed to Alabama. Dylan Raiola committed. Like, these guys all committed before their senior year. That's pretty common. So if you miss your junior year, you can fall through the cracks. Now, fortunately, he just smashed his senior year. 3,300 yards, 38 touchdowns, 73% of his passes completed, ran for almost 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns. Like, he had a phenomenal senior year, which really helped him jump back up. He still stayed at Oregon State. I don't think he really had any big offers, but this dude can ball, and we saw it in the spring. I mean, true dual threat guy.
Yeah, and getting on the field immediately, right where it is he likely will start.
It's him and DJU. I mean, we've seen DJU like play and then get benched. He got benched last year. Like, so I think DJU will start.
Right, but if he's bad,
yeah, I think Aiden Childs is similar to, probably closer to like the Dante Moore side of the spectrum, where if DJU is bad, I think Childs is the next guy up. They don't really have anybody else. They had Chance Nolan, but he transferred out. What's Bengal Branson or something like that, who played last year. I think he's still there, but he's kind of meh. Like, Childs brings a different dimension to that offense. Like, I could see them going with Childs.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to think, though, promises were made to Iamaleava to get him in, right? But
probably,
which, like, last year too. His last year, it wasn't the worst of DJU, right? That was the year before, but it was an NFL quality play either. But
Right.
You wonder how it's going to fare with Oregon State wide receivers instead of Clemson's like future NFL wide receivers. Although I guess his first year there, they were trotting out some bad stuff at the wide receiver position.
Yes, I mean I do think it'll probably be DJU, but I think Childs offers a different dimension. Like I was saying, I think he's good. He's got a good arm as well. Like I think he has an NFL ceiling. We'll see how he develops at Oregon State if he can keep developing there. He's probably more of a day 2 guy. I think is more likely his ceiling. I would be surprised if he gets into day 1 at the end of the day, but he's got an NFL future, I think.
Yeah, and CFF smash with rushing upside. But can Oregon State support a prolific passing quarterback?
Yeah, right. That's a great question, but we haven't seen that. I'm not going to say necessarily that they can't do it just because they've never, it's like a little chicken and egg. Like they've never had that guy. Right. So who knows if they can do it or not, but we'll see.
More will be revealed. Okay. Now this is the other guy that I've acquired a staggering amount of shares of so far in supplementals because he is just too damn cheap for his talent level, in my opinion. What do you think about Kienholz?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I like Kienholz. So the thing with Kienholz is he's going to Ohio State, and we don't really know what that quarterback situation is going to look like. It's Brown, it's McCord, it's Brown, it's McCord. They're kind of going back and forth. I don't think it's going to be Kienholz. I would be shocked if he ended up on the field in the next probably 2 years, because Devin Brown does have 2 years before he can declare. He's going into his sophomore season, so even if it's McCord, it's going to be McCord and then maybe Brown, or McCord sticks around.
You don't think Brown transfers if McCord gets the job?
Man, I would if I'm him, to be honest. But we have Matt, who is fairly plugged in there to the to the Ohio State program, and he says Brown likes it at Ohio State. I mean, things can obviously change, so we'll see how that works out. But I do think there's the Lincoln Kienholz's best chance is Brown transferring out and McCord having a big year and then going off to the NFL, because they are bringing in a 2025 or 2024 guy, one of the top guys there, Aaron Nolan. So he is committed there. He's good. I like Kienholz better tools wise. I haven't watched a lot of Aaron Nolan yet, but I mean, Lincoln Kienholz has really good ability with his legs. He's got a big arm. He throws well on the move. He performs well outside of structure. So he offers a little bit different than what we've seen out of a lot of the Ohio State quarterbacks, but I think he's good. He's bails from the pocket a little bit too quick. So he's got to get a little bit better at pocket presence. Needs to improve his, touch a little bit. He's a little bit more of a one-speed passer at this point, but I think he's got a lot of potential. So if things break right, he could be the starting quarterback at Ohio State, and that's huge.
Yeah, I mean, kind of the way I've been feeling about him, you literally get him in like the 11th or 12th round of a supplemental at this point. At least ones that have some veteran players in them. They're pushing the mid-tier freshman down, and so I think it's likely probably that Brown stays, but what if he doesn't?
Right.
What if it's McCord and then it's Kienholz next year? Just the upside on that play relative to the cost, as opposed to me taking, a wide receiver 20 in the class or a CFF guy that, maybe makes my starting lineup, maybe doesn't. It's just, I don't know. I got to take the shot on the guy that, if he hits, is going to be a top 5 quarterback for CFF and a potential, high round NFL pick.
Yeah. I mean, look at these legs here on this clip. Like, look at him go. I mean, and I think that's the type of thing that think that will translate fairly well to the collegiate level. So I think he could be a really good CFF quarterback.
So, and am I right in saying he was a really small school kid, like lesser competition?
Yeah. Where's he? He's out of like, I think North Dakota, South Dakota, like up there, like in one of those types of states. So like, yeah, like fairly low level of competition, but I mean, he was dominant there. So, we'll see. He was like a 3-sport athlete dominant there too, like just dominating all the sports up that way.
Yeah,
so
there's
level competition, but
there's the clip flying around to him doing the windmill dunk too, which is fun.
Yeah. So I'm with you though with Kindholtz. Like I've done we've done the program supplemental draft, and then the only other supplemental I've done so far has actually been an auction. And I got Kindholtz like very cheap compared to what the other quarterbacks that were going.
Like what in terms of a percentage?
So the percentage is a little tough because it's like a rollover balance, but just comparatively, the Malachi Nelson went for like 700. Dante Moore went for like 700. Arch was like 650. Like those top guys were going for like over 500, and I got Kindholtz for like 70. 70, 80, like somewhere in that range. Like I got him for cheap. So I'm in on him at his price as well. Like that ceiling is so high compared to the price that you're paying. It's probably a lower percentage shot than some of these other guys that you're taking, but if he hits, man, he could hit big. And then if he doesn't, he transfers out, and maybe you get a CFF value somewhere.
That's where I'm at. If he doesn't, he transfers out, goes to a lower P5 program. Maybe you get lucky. He transfers to a G5 program and is a top 5 fantasy quarterback,
Yeah. Maybe he's the next Joe Burrow. Transfers out of Ohio State. Yeah. Who knows?
Could be. We don't know. All right. So I'm running you about the hour mark right now, and I'm sure you have a wifey to get back to. So let's kind of roll through. There's 3 guys that you thought were relevant that were out of the top 10 and would you say these are guys you're still targeting supplementals, or are you more like watch listing them?
So 2 of them I'm definitely targeting. Now the first guy you have up here, Kenny Minchie, he's my QB 11. And he is like nipping at Kindholtz's heels. So I like Kenny Minchie, and I think he's going under the radar too. He was going to go to Pitt, and then now he's going to Notre Dame. They have Sam Hartman there. Sam Hartman's going to start, but then he's only got 1 year left. Sam Hartman's finally out of eligibility. He's been in college for forever. So Minchie looks to be like the next guy up. Now they have a pretty high recruit in the next year's class, 2024, that CJ Carr, who's Lloyd Carr's kid, if anybody knows, the former Michigan coach. So like they think pretty highly of him. I haven't watched him yet, but I know our recruiting team's not all that high on him. So I think Kenny Minchie could be the next guy up there. And he's a smart player too. He's a fast processor. He manipulates the defense quick. He's got a quick release. So I think he's a really good college player. You see some off-platform throws like that one. He's got really good ball placement too. Throws with touch. Like I like Minchie. I think he is under the radar here.
Some really nice deep balls there, and not just like one in the highlight reel, just like one after another, and all pretty much in stride in the bucket, which is nice to see.
Yeah, so I think Minchie's going under the radar right now. He's a guy that I said next guy up at Notre Dame, and if you're the starting quarterback at Notre Dame, like they haven't really had some good ones recently, but I still think the NFL values that a little bit higher than what like the general public seems to think. Like I think program still matters a little bit to them. We'll have to see how they do recruiting like wide receivers and developing wide receivers, because they've not been very good with that recently. But
I mean, Greathouse is decent, right?
And it could be Minchie and Greathouse for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I'd love that. Who was the kid there a couple of years ago before Buchner? He was always great for CFF, even if
Ian Book.
I mean, he was 7th round NFL pick, but Man, he was good for CFF for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the biggest question with Minchie is probably arm strength. Is he, Joe Burrow, Tua, like where it's at a level that is acceptable? I think he is. So I think he's got an NFL future, but we'll see.
We shall see. Okay. Mr. Emory Williams, where is he going to college?
This is the lower rated guy, and this is like my guy in the class. So I am currently writing. So we finished our Devy guide March 1st over at Campus Canton, and I'm actually writing like a little supplemental piece right now with like some honorable mentions. I've been chipping away at that over the last month as I've been wedding planning and on honeymoon and all that kind of stuff. But Emory Wilson's in there. He's a 3-star guy. He's quarterback 30 going to Miami. Nobody really ever thought that much of him because initially Rashada was committed to Miami and then he flipped to Florida. Miami tried to get some other quarterbacks, but they just didn't. So Williams is the only guy in that class. They just saw Jake Garcia transfer out. So after Tyler Van Dyke goes, they don't really have anybody else. We'll see if they can get a transfer. He's going to have to stave off a transfer, but I think he's good. He's 6'4", 190, so he needs to add some weight. He's got a big arm. He puts nice touch on passes too when he needs to. Like right there, you just saw him loft one over towards the sideline. He throws well off platform and on the move. Multiple arm angles. I think he has good arm talent, NFL level arm talent. Definitely needs to improve ball placement. We see sometimes it's, not the best. He needs to set up his wide receivers up a little bit better. And he needs to clean up his mechanics. He's got this like leg kick that you see as he throws. Let's see if you can see it here on this. No. He's got this like leg kick he does. It kind of looks like a baseball at times. So he's got to clean that up. But I like Williams. Nobody's talking about this dude, and I think he's good.
Yeah. So what's he, 3-star right now?
Yeah, 3-star.
Yeah. And with you, though, definitely seems to have some aggression, too, which is nice. Yeah. As much as, like, for better or for worse, he's giving his wide receivers a chance to make plays on the ball.
Yeah. So. Yeah, like I said, I think if he can stave off a transfer, I think he's better than Ja'Cory Brown, who's the other guy that they have there. Like, I could see him being the next guy up at Miami.
So now they got a new coordinator this year, right?
Yeah, they fired Josh Gaddis after 1 year, and they bring in Shannon Dawson from Houston. So he's out of that Dana Holgerson tree. Big question there is like, is Cristobal going to get out of his way, or is Cristobal going to like have his hands in that?
Yeah, it was messy last year.
Yeah, it was definitely a power struggle, I think, between Gaddis and Cristobal. Yeah,
and Tyler Van Dyke went from being potential high-round draft pick to like going back to school, So it's a tough hit for him. All right, Emory Williams, Colin's late-round guy. I think he has gone in my supplementals I've done, but super duper late. Gosh, why doesn't Jaden Rashada want to come play? There we go. He was like stuck on the other screen. All right. So Jaden Rashada, notably the vortex of a heck of a lot of drama in the NIL and recruiting world this year. Can the kid play?
Yeah. I mean, I think he can play. He was a borderline 5-star guy. He had a lot of interest very clearly. Miami was in on him. Florida was in on him. So he had a lot of like pretty big offers. Like you said, a lot of drama in the recruiting cycle, ends up at Arizona State, but he ends up with Kenny Dillingham, who just made Bo Nix look good. He just put Bo Nix in Heisman contention. So it'll be interesting to see how he develops there at Arizona State. They don't have another guy, but he is an aggressive passer. He throws a really nice deep ball. He throws downfield really well, drops it in the bucket, throws with a lot of arm strength. So he's got a big time arm. Need to see him operate a little bit better in the short and intermediate areas. Like, I don't think we see enough of that. for me to feel comfortable right now, expecting him to have a ton of Devy potential, but he has the tools for sure. You see his arm strength here. You see some escapability. So, he's definitely a vertical passer, but if he can also clean up and add the intermediate and short area to his game as well, I could see an NFL future there. It's just, you got to squint at it a little bit right now.
So that's a great tidbit about the new OC there. So, and who's going to start for ASU? Do you think Rashada's got a chance, or?
It's looking like it's going to be, I cannot pronounce the guy's name. It's a French name, Bourget, something along those lines, who actually played pretty well at the end of last year, despite that dumpster fire. Or they brought in Drew Pine from Notre Dame, transferred in there. So it'll probably be one of those two guys. I think Jaden Rashada is probably a long shot to get any starts this year, but Arizona State's not going to get a better recruit than this. So
yeah,
it really comes down to, are they going to be able to develop it, kind of a thing. And that's kind of why I was saying I could see him being that Ty Thompson type of a guy where he needs some development, but he has that high ceiling. Like, can he develop it? Because Ty Thompson was so good at throwing the deep balls too. That's one of the things I loved about his game, and he just never really developed. So
yeah, me as well. Mobile and had one hell of a deep ball. Right, but this guy gets to play under the guy that just salvaged Bo Nix's career, hauled him out of the trash heap, and put him in Heisman contention. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about Bo Nix now as like, some people are saying he could be a first round guy. I think most people are on like a day 2 path. Like, that's where I see him being like a second to third round guy right now. Whereas if you had asked me, if you had asked me last year, I would have said Bo Nix was undraftable. He's a 7th round guy, 6th round guy, maybe at best. And Dillingham helped. So maybe Dillingham can develop Rashada too.
Yeah, it's funny how much a little bit of coaching can change things at this level of football.
Exactly.
Okay. Man, that was awesome. We covered so much ground. My brain is so full of freshman quarterbacks, and it was really fun to watch some film with you and throw it on. So I guess kind of closing arguments here on this class. Where are you taking like these later guys in supplementals? Are you preferring them to maybe some veteran quarterbacks that are falling into starting jobs, like, say the kid from Wake Forest who's played really well, or, some guys like that are floating around supplementals in the late rounds?
Yeah, I do tend to be a little bit more aggressive on freshman quarterbacks, because, that is something that over at Campus Canton we've kind of been, a lot of us have kind of been adopting that mindset is, we've talked about a couple times. It's like the mystery box, like, are you going to take a guy like Michael Penix or Devin Leary, where we kind of know what they are at this point? Like they're going to get drafted, but like, what do we see that NFL future being realistically? Whereas, guys like Jaden Rashada, like I said, if you squint, you could see an NFL quarterback there. He's got the arm, he's got the mobility, he's aggressive, he needs to rein it in a little bit. Emory Williams, kind of along the same lines. Like, I like those guys. Kenny Minchie, I could see an NFL future for. So I do tend to be a little more aggressive with some of these freshman quarterbacks and try to hope that they can develop, because and obviously this is like the best example you could possibly get, but look at Drake May. He was like I think he was like a top 10 recruit. I think he hovered around like 10 to 12, depending on the services, and he's a guy that I was probably too low on. And now look at him. He's the QB 1 or 2 in the class, depending on who you ask. Probably most people have Williams 1, but I know there are definitely Drake fans out there, and he's looking like a first round pick. So that's obviously best case scenario, but you can hit that with some of these freshmen, even some of the ones who are a little bit lower. Whereas if you're taking even Joe Milton, who's hanging around in some of these supplemental ones, like, you can get 1 year of good CFF production, and then maybe he's a 3rd round guy.
Yeah,
based on his tools. So. Like, I think that's his best case scenario.
Yeah, I think that's optimistic, my friend.
Yeah.
But I hear you. Yeah, and Drake May is a sore spot. Someone on your team was really high on him because he kept getting drafted in supplementals right before my pick, which is why I had so much Thompson because I had them like May, Thompson. So very, very sour about it. It was like May, Thompson, Buchner was in there, but you guys were hyping him too.
Yeah.
So honestly, in a lot of these supplementals now, I have to fade the C2C guys because you got to reach for them, But the couple of guys I like that aren't getting touted, I can get good values on. But
yeah, I'm sorry, man. I apologize. That one wasn't me on May. I promise. I was way too low on him.
I love you guys, but I hate you all the same.
Let me ask you: do you have anybody this year? You're saying you gotta, find your guy that nobody's hyping up yet this year. I know you said you haven't. We were talking pre-show. You said you were really diving into the dynasty stuff, killing some rookie content. I've seen those cut-ups you guys have been doing, those film rooms. Those are phenomenal. I love those, by the way. But out of the guys you've watched, do you have anybody that you're like, this is kind of my guy this year? It's a little,
Yeah, freshman, I can't say that I do. I have been just hammering veterans in supplemental drafts.
Okay.
I could show you the board from the one I'm in right now. I took, I went like Singer, and in the second round, I took Malachi Nelson at like 101 or 102, and then I took like Singer at 201. There was NFL players in it, so I took Roschon Johnson in the third round, which I was kind of shocked that he hung around that long.
Yeah.
And then I took like who's the running Jaquindon Jackson? I took Jalen Newell in there. I mean, I get the only one that I maybe had some second thoughts about after was Singer because Makai Lemon was still on the board, and I do think Makai Lemon is likely to be an NFL player. I also think Singer will, but I'm a little worried about athleticism. I think he's got the talent. I'm terrified he pulls a David Bell, like runs a 4.66 and is just like dead to us, But anyways, I think that's I think it's a good gamble for me.
Okay.
A guy that's getting NFL hype already, that has a 1,200-yard season, that is going to a high-profile program. And then a lot of the rest of those guys, I either just loved their CF upside and thought they had some Devy potential, or I think they have genuine NFL potential. Like Jalen Newell, I'm very high on, perhaps unreasonably so, but
I like him too. I think this could be an interesting year. I'm just really curious to see what happens with those suspensions at Iowa State. I have no idea. Like, we haven't heard anything. We heard like Iowa and Iowa State, there could be some suspensions related to gambling, and then nothing. It's been cricket since. So maybe it's nothing.
Yeah. There's one blurb. What was it? 3 or 4 weeks ago?
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with that. I mean, we'll see, I guess. But it's always in the back of my mind with Noel. I'm really close to pulling the trigger on him a couple of times.
Yeah, in like the 6th round of a supplemental, though, you're taking either a pure CFF guy, like a borderline, like a high 4-star, but at that point it's your wide receiver 15 or 16 in the draft. So it's, give me the guy that put up extremely, like really nice efficiency metrics as the wide receiver 2 in an offense that had the wide receiver 1 go for like 1,200 yards and like 11 touchdowns or whatever it was. I mean, with poor quarterback play too, right? Yeah. Like you get someone in there that can actually, or if Deckers takes a step forward, I could see Noel being early declare, having a nice analytical profile and things like that. And then the other guy I drafted high was Bucky Irving in that one, just because, maybe a little small for NFL, but gosh, man, he's a junior and he's already coming off of a really efficient, really high volume season. So, I kind of faded a lot of the freshmen for those guys.
That's fair. Like I said, I do like Noel. I probably should have pulled the trigger on him once or twice before. I just have not yet. I'll probably, like I said, I've only had 2 supplementals so far. So we'll see.
Well, we've got some coming up, Colin. Now I have all the dirty secrets of your inner working of your scouting mind. So we'll go head to head on a couple of these.
I'm sure we will.
All right, my friend, I have totally taken enough of your time. It is wonderful to have you on. As always, great to see you. Anything you want to plug? What's going on? What's next? What are you working on after this article? Or do you want to talk about the article?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just like a supplemental to our Devy guide that we released. It's like some honorable mention guys. It's 2 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 2 tight ends that if we had just an extra profile or 2, like I think I would have put in there. The guys that I like. I will say the one guy in there that I like probably the most, Emory Williams is in there too. Keegan Johnson, wide receiver from Iowa, who transferred to Kansas State. He's a guy I like a lot. So keep an eye out for that guy.
I didn't know he transferred. That explains a lot. I saw him go in one of my supplementals. I didn't know. He's a guy that had an awesome profile as a freshman in that just trash can offense.
Yeah.
Huge rack guy. And that's what stuck out to me.
Yeah. Down year last year, but he only played 2 games because he got hurt.
Yeah. And just whatever.
It's Iowa.
Why would you play?
Yeah.
It's the worst offense I've ever seen in any football.
Yeah. Yeah. So look for that article dropping over campuscanton.com probably in the next couple of days.
Awesome. And if you've stumbled your way onto my show, I'm sure you were already following Colin. If you're not, he is at C2C Decker. Just tons of good stuff. Great guy to interact with on the Twitter. And if you're not already a Campus to Canton member, I can't recommend it enough. The host of tools, the data suite that they have will just change your scouting experience and change your CFF experience. So anything else going on at the site you guys want to plug?
Yeah, we got the CFF guide coming up. So if you play in CFF leagues or, you're in a Campus to Canton league and you're not as familiar on the CFF side, that'll be dropping July 1st, I believe, right around there. So be on the lookout for that one. Pre-orders will be available soon.
Pre-orders will be available, and I will do it. And if you've made your way here tonight, please subscribe to the show. We need your support. I want to generate enough of a follower base so that Twitter will do the paying me a 1 cent to spin thing. But that's it. I love you all for showing up. I appreciate it. And Colin, until next time, my friend.
Thank you, sir.